Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm here to share with you top worst lesbian couples. This basically lesbian couples that I was like, this story is definitely not giving what it's supposed to give. Overrated, boring, and just very forced. But before we get into further details, please don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. So first we're gonna start off with Agnes and Doris, and this is actually a series. And if you guys don't know, it is actually called Dark, and you can watch it on Netflix if I'm not mistaken. So this is actually the reason why I feel like this one is boring and was just a waste of time, was because of the limited screen time, and also feel like the storyline was basically very rushed. The relationship between them basically started in 1953 when Agnes and her son arrives and rent a room in the home of Doris. Agnes quickly seduces Dory, leading to an intense affair that basically brings Dory, to a point that she actually ends up realizing that maybe she's not happy in her marriage no more. And you guys can also see, due to this relationship that the two had, she actually ends up, filing for a divorce or asking for a divorce from her husband later on. The reason why I didn't like this series, or in this case, this couple's plot, was because we basically don't get to see them together. They had so much potential to, to be great and to give us a little bit more, but the reason is, there's the lack of, screen time. That is the reason why I feel like it ain't worth watching. Then moving forward, we have Honey and MJ, and it's actually in a movie. And if you guys don't know, the movie is called Honey Don't. The film Honey Don't plot is boring and messy, and the storyline between the two feels completely forced and empty as well. The first half of the movie basically focus on, Drew and his bizarre predatory cult. Later, the film pulls a sudden, total shift. It turns out Honey's love interest, in this case the cop MJ, is actually the serial eliminator who has been taking and eliminating local women. Their relationship is mostly built on random hookups. It feels confusing, especially because of how everything ended. The ending of the movie, I was just like, ain't no way this is the ending that, I definitely didn't ask for. Obviously, I knew there would be a plot twist, and this was definitely basically a plot twist. But at the end of the day, they just randomly hooked up with one another. Then the other one finds out that the other one is, a criminal, and they end up getting into this whole situation. Basically, to be honest, this wasn't worth my time. Then moving forward, we have Sarah and so Kira. If you guys don't know, this one is also in a series, and the series is called Medlock. In the series, that is a legal drama, a robot Medlock. The relationship is frequently criticized by fans as boring. Mainly viewers feel, their storyline serves as an unnecessary filler. The romance revolves heavily around, the mismatch of expectations. Sarah is typically, high anxious and wants an exclusive committed, relationship, whether Kira prefers an open, low commitment, non-monogamous relationship dynamic. The continued back and forth between the two and the boundaries that they just couldn't figure out between each other end up, bringing their relationship to an end. Also, I have to say the lack of screen time. I feel like we only get to see a little bit of glimpse of them together, basically them working together, and then later on hooking up, and then later on having a conversation about, the boundaries that they want for their relationship, and then later on basically just everybody going their own ways. That was basically it. Open and closed story. There was no emotional connection. It was just very empty. So I definitely do agree, on the fact that I feel like it was basically forced, and it was basically rushed as well. Moving forward, we have AB and Imani, and this one is a movie. And if you guys don't know, the movie is actually called Blood Beach Betrayal, and it is available to watch on Tubi. It's actually a Tubi original movie. The story is about AB, a colleague lifeguard, in this case, a college lifeguard who, undercovers a web of eliminations and conspiracy at a country club while having a love affair with Imani, a wealthy board member's wife. As AB digs deeply into the crime, she discovers a massive cover up, narrowly survives an attempt on her life, and realizes that the board members and Imani was pulling the strings feelings. And to be honest, despite the intimate connection that the two had, that there was definitely something that I liked. I feel like the connection between the two when it came to intimacy was very good. But besides that, I can say that, the storyline was very, 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 I feel like they just didn't click. It was just a couple, they look good together, but there was no chemistry. And obviously, the end of the movie also says it all when she actually ends up finding out that Imani is behind everything that has been going on. There was also like just like a part they were like, oh, well, this one is a skip, but the intimacy between the two is good, but there was definitely no chemistry in my opinion. And then moving forward, we have Sarah and Ida. If you guys don't know, this one is also a series and it's actually called Acapulco. Yes, so this one is available to watch on Apple TV and it's considered boring, rushed, and poorly written. The romance begins, as an awakening when Sarah gets Ida's phone number written on her arm. Audience feels like she was forced into a relationship with a rich girl, barely, knowing that it was just a fast track or for a new romance for her, especially after her intense multi-season heartbreak with Roberta, who was her best friend, who she was deeply in love with. And also later on, people feel like, they should have given her more time just to, be more in tune with herself and later on maybe finding love. The fact that she found love, just so randomly and just connected with somebody so randomly, and now they are, basically, just a couple was kind of forced, and people feel like there was no genuine connection between the two before they got to a point of actually being in a relationship. And I can kind of see why viewers will feel like, it was rushed. And the writers definitely didn't took their time when it comes to making things right, when it comes to Sarah's, love life. So that's why I feel like this one was also a very, very, very big disappointment. And then moving forward, we have Sydney and Dina. And if you guys don't know, this one is also a series, and the series is actually called I Am Not Okay With This. Yes, it is available on Netflix. The coming of age supernatural series, I'm not okay with this. The show arc of them, is described as genetic and basically typical, closet teenager crushing on a straight best friend. The storyline, subverted expectation as the season progressed. Sydney is, grappling with intense grief over her father's passing. She will actually ends up realizing that she has deep romantic feelings for her, in this case, best friend, Dina. And Dina spends most of the season, dating Brad, who is, the guy that she has been with. And later on, as the season progresses, you can kind of see that there starts a spark between them two. But obviously, we only got, if I'm not mistaken, one season. So a lot of people felt like maybe in the other season we would have gotten a little bit more, and maybe there would have been that official shift where we just feel like, there could have possibly been something. But I do feel like, it's just like you falling for your best friend, and your best friend doesn't want to hurt your feelings, but she also might not be wanting to hurt your feelings. So I just feel like, they should have just stayed best friends and just, stick with that arc, in my opinion. So yes, guys, that's basically it. Let me know any other, boring or just lesbian couples that aren't worth watching down below in the comments. Until the next video, I hope you all have enjoyed this list, and let me know your thoughts. It's very, very, very important. And goodbye.